morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Old Mutual Namibia Foundations Indaba for 2023. My name is Carmen Forster, and it is my privilege to be your MC for the opening session of the Indaba today. I would specifically like to welcome Mr. Tassius Chigariru, the Managing Director of Old Mutual Namibia, the trustees of our Old Mutual Namibia Foundation, other luminous guests that I see in the audience, our panelists, our speakers, artists, as well as you, our beautiful guests, and of course, the media. Thank you so much for attending the session this morning. We have some exciting events in store for you today, and the highlight of this opening session is going to be a panel discussion where we have 5 luminous panelists joining us today, sharing their knowledge and expertise on a very important topic, spilling the tea on unemployment in Namibia. But before we commence with our panel discussion, I would like to call upon Celeste Nangolo. She is the Old Mutual Namibia Human Capital Manager, and she will be formally opening the proceedings for us today. Please join me in welcoming Celeste.
Am I on? I say. Good morning, everyone. Lovely to have you all here today. Director of Ceremonies, executive members, management teams, distinguished guests, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. In a world often characterized by its relentless pace, it is with utmost excitement that we announce the inception of a unique initiative aimed at addressing societal topics that we face as a nation. With the first ever OMF Indaba, we aim to position one of Namibia's most pressing challenges, youth unemployment. The 2023 Old Mutual Foundation Indaba, scheduled for the 25th of October 2023, is not just an event. It is a testament to our commitment to nurturing the potential of the nation's youth. Under the theme, Spilling the Tea on Youth Unemployment, the inaugural gathering is designed to be a beacon of hope, a source of knowledge, and a catalyst for change. It is a platform where millennials and Gen Zs will come together to discover insights, acquire skills, and explore opportunities that will shape their future and, in turn, the future of our beloved Namibia. This event is not only about raising awareness, but also about providing practical solutions. It is a place where dialogue transforms into action, where inspiration fuels determination, and where knowledge empowers. The 2023 Old Mutual Indaba is poised to be a game changer. It is an embodiment of our commitment to meaningful change and empowerment for Namibians' youth. Together, let us shape a brighter, more prosperous future for our youth and our nation. I thank you.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome, Celeste. And now please join me in viewing the premiere of the Old Mutual Namibia Foundation's video.
The Old Mutual Foundation, the anchor that brings hope, joy, progress, and change in Namibia. We have committed to doing great things every day to impact economic prosperity. At the Old Mutual Foundation, our mission is clear: to create sustainable change through our 3 pillars, which focus on education and skills development, financial well-being, and community development to drive positive transformation, touching the lives of our Namibian communities. As an integral part of the Namibian fabric, we at the Old Mutual Foundation are anchored deeply in our communities and believe every good deed will yield a bright future.
Ek is Johannes Bakkerij. Nou ek doen my goed alles mooi. Ek sê baie dankie vir my Old Mutual Foundation vir my help us.
My name is Diana Nakumba. I'm here to thank Old Mutual Foundation for funding my Embegem business. They love Embegem. Thank you very much.
Hey there, Old Mutual Foundation. I'm Jason. Thank you so much for the impactful experience. It has added value in the immediate community in which we operate in.
By uniting under the banner of the Old Mutual Foundation, we're not just shaping a better today, but also paving the way for generations to come.
So hopefully you also got goosebumps watching that. I must say that I've been a proud Mutualite for almost 16 years, and there are a number of reasons why I enjoy being part of this organization. But one of them that really has touched me deeply is one of the projects that the foundation's team have established, the the Community Builder Project. And what's so exciting about this project is that Old Mutual staff are encouraged to propose community initiatives and projects throughout the country to be recipients of an annual contribution that foundation makes towards these ventures. And what the requirement is for this proposal is that you, as the proposer and an Old Mutual staff member, need to be involved in that initiative. So not only does our company give to many important causes, but we also encourage our staff to become good corporate citizens, and I think that's really wonderful. All right, so next up, I'd like to call on Mignon Duprier. Mignon is the Old Mutual Namibia Executive for our Marketing, Public Affairs and Sustainability division, and she will be sharing more with us about what we can expect during today's Indaba proceedings. Please welcome Mignon to the podium.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Carmen. Am I hearable at the back? Great. Good. Director of Ceremonies, executive members, management teams, distinguished guests, and friends of the media, welcome. Today we stand on the threshold of a new beginning, a day filled with promise and purpose. As we together here for the opening of the 2023 Old Mutual Foundation Indaba, I'm deeply moved by the sense of hope and possibility that fills this room. In a world often marked by fast-paced change, where challenges can seem inconvincible, it's heartening to see so many individuals coming together with a shared goal to make a difference in the lives of Namibian youth. This Indaba is not just an event, it's a declaration of our belief in the potential of our young people. It's a pledge to support, empower, uplift, and assist them on the journey towards having a brighter future. Our theme today is spilling the tea on youth unemployment. We recognize this is a pertinent issue, and we're here to address it comprehensively. The panel discussion and training sessions that will be taking place today have been carefully designed to provide critical insights and practical solutions to assist our youth in Namibia. Today, we also have some talented interns that's working for Old Mutual in the room. And I want to give you the opportunity to stand up so that everyone can see what these nice, fantastic people and our future leaders are going to look like once they start entering the world after these internships. So as Old Mutual, we take in around 30 interns in a year. They all come straight from university, and they spend a year with us really understanding the business, assisting us. And I can stand here and really testify. There's one of my interns, Bonita, here at the front, and she has made a significant impact in my team. I cannot imagine not having her there, and it's only been 3 or 4 months. So thank you very much. Please see our future leaders. So the remarkable idea for the Indaba started with a small group of visionaries who declared a dream of a Namibia where young people could unlock their full potential. It's a story of passion and dedication that has brought us to this point. As we proceed, let's consider, so what about youth unemployment in Namibia? How does Indaba like this address this youth unemployment problem that we are facing? The answer lies in our collective commitment to create tangible change. The event is not just about discussion, it's also about actual implementation and doing and really focusing on the change that we can bring in Namibia. So today we embark on a journey driven by a simple yet profound vision. A Namibia where young persons has the opportunity to thrive, learn, grow and contribute to the prosperity of our nation. So today we will be covering 4 sessions. In session 1 is the session you are currently in. We will be having a discussion around, what is the key issues. Just having an overview, having a deep dive into unemployment in Namibia, what can be done and what has been experienced. So we will have a list of good panelists that will give you some more insights into this. On the second session today, it will focus on Speak Up Mastery. So this is really for the individuals that has just finished university, want to get in the workplace. We're not always as confident. We don't really understand always what is required when we go to interviews, when we need to stand up, when we need to present. So we really like to equip you with how to go about presenting yourself, presenting what you can do for a business. In the third session, it's really around focusing on people that are just entering the job market or has just entered the job market. And often in universities, we don't get taught the soft skills, the emotional intelligence, the social intelligence, how do we go about networking, how do we go about with time management. So there's some of those things that we see as basic and we just assume everyone has got the skills and the knowledge around it. But that is what the third session will be about. It will really be touching on how to give you the confidence in the workplace on topics that might not be covered in your university studies. Then in the fourth session, we will have Navigating Financial Matters. So that will be a poetry and comedy session this evening and really just touching on, the financial issues that we are facing as young individuals and then also as students just finishing studies and not yet being in employment. So we understand that challenges like youth unemployment is complex, but in their complexity, we would like to find the opportunity. We are here to innovate, to collaborate, and to create solutions that can change lives. As we begin this journey, let us carry with us the spirit of unity, of hope, and of determination. Let us remember that even the smallest action can have a profound impact on the lives of our young people. Let us be inspired by the stories of resilience, courage, and success that will be shared during the Indaba today. When we looked at all the presenters, we looked at all the panelists, we really tried to identify people that you can relate with, people that can come and share their stories with you, to encourage you and to motivate you on the way forward in your job search. So let these stories remind us that change is possible and that transformation is within our reach. So before we move on and I give back to Carmen, I would also just like to recognize our partners. So we have got the UNDP, we've got NIPDB, and then we've also got Fresh Namibia. We are extremely excited to have you on board to assist us in driving these really important matters and topical issues within our country. So thank you very much for always being there and always supporting what Old Mutual Foundation do. So with that said, thank you, and let the 2023 Old Mutual Foundation Indaba begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mignon. So the table is set, the kettle is boiled. Let's start to pour some tea. And with that, I'd like to call up our panelists. Our first panelist is Hopolang Hororo. She is the United Nations Resident Coordinator in Namibia. Prior to her appointment to this role, Hopolang served as the ILO's Country Office Director for Zimbabwe and Namibia for more than 7 years. She has also been the ILO Deputy Country Office Director for the United Republic of Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda, and in the Regional Office for Africa as a Youth Employment Specialist and Decent Work Focal Point Officer. Hopolang is passionate about mentoring and coaching young people. Please join me in welcoming Hopolang to the stage. Our second panelist is Lisa Motamola. Lisa is an HR consultant, executive and management coach, as well as a job finder coach. She is the founder and managing consultant of Hito HR and Training Consultants, with over 8 years' experience in the consulting field. Lisa has a keen interest in rehumanizing workplaces in Namibia by fostering relationships between boards, management, and all employees to create workplaces where employees thrive and belong. She is the author of People First, a management handbook that was launched 2 months ago and has sold 800 copies already. Please join me in welcoming Lisa. Welcome. Our third panelist is Desiree Obel, the Presidential Advisor on Youth Matters and Enterprise Development. Desiree aids the President in discharging his constitutional mandate by engaging and coordinating intergovernmental and national stakeholders to advance pro-youth policy and program priorities that harness a demographic dividend under the overarching goals of poverty eradication, economic inclusion, and shared prosperity. In 2022, she established the AOI 1 Foundation to accelerate women's economic empowerment and social progression. Please join me in welcoming Desiree this morning. Thank you. Our fourth panelist is none other than Rebecca Tsenai Nielulwa. She is the national leader of the 100 Million Fair Share campaign and a final year UNAM law student. She is enthusiastic about legislation, social justice, entrepreneurship, and empowering women and young people. Rebecca has nearly 10 years of experience as a public speaker, including sharing a stage with world leaders at the 77th United Nations General Assembly in New York in 2022. She currently represents Namibia in the 100 Million Fair Share campaign, a global initiative that promotes high standards in education, youth employment, and the abolition of child labor. Please join me in welcoming Rebecca. And last, but certainly not least, I'd like to announce the name of our final panelist. Patricia Uelifu is the Old Mutual Foundation Board Chairperson and the Managing Director of Old Mutual Corporate Segment. She spent 17 years at the National Petroleum Corporation of Namibia, playing pivotal roles such as Resources Manager, Business Support Manager, and Petroleum Downstream Manager. In 2011, Patricia transitioned to Old Mutual Namibia, where she assumed the role of Human Resources Executive. During her tenure, she transformed Old Mutual Human Resources into a strategic business partner. Currently, she holds the position of Managing Director, Corporate Segment, and has held notable board directorships within and outside Old Mutual. Please welcome Patty to the stage. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, ladies. So I know we're focusing on youth unemployment and youth empowerment today, But I do know in the past, Old Mutual invested a lot in women's empowerment, and we can see the dividends by the presence here on the stage. All right, so we're going to commence with our panel discussion now. I'm going to pose a few questions to our panelists, and then after that, we will give you, the audience, the opportunity to pose a few questions before we give them the opportunity to make some closing remarks, and then we will end the panel discussion. So I'm looking forward to a very exciting conversation. My first question is directed to Desiree. Desiree, the National Statistics Agency estimates that our youth unemployment rate is around 40%. In your opinion, what has caused this high rate of unemployment, and how has the government sought to address this?
Good morning, and thank you very much, Carmen, for the question. Good morning to the young people. Before I begin, I want to commend the Old Mutual Foundation for this platform, which is very practical to dialogue and also to build capacity of young people. So good morning to all of the young people. Unemployment is a complex, has multiple drivers. You have to begin by looking at the structure of the economy, understanding how we got here. You have to look at unemployment from a question of education, governance decisions, and leadership decisions that we're taking from a policy and legislative framework. You have to look at unemployment on the international economic global order and what's happening in the world around us. But you also have to look at the personal and the professional choices that young people are taking today that are contributing to their professional advancement. So I'm going to try to answer some of those key issues as we set the context to have a broad discussion in understanding and unpacking a very dynamic social and economic challenge. The first thing is probably, how did we get here? Because we didn't wake up in a crisis. We didn't wake up with a 43% youth unemployment and 33% broad unemployment rate. It really is very much rooted in our economic structure, and at the best of times, the Namibian economy is not a mass employment creating economy. And that's just because we are driven by the primary sectors, such as mining, which tend to be highly automated, and fisheries. These are the largest sectors of our economy. As a statement of fact, Namibia is a very young country with a large young demographic. If you have to take the children, which make up 35% of our population between the age of 0 to 14, and the youth from 15 to 35, who make up another 36%, 72% of our country is young, is under the age of 35. So that's an extraordinary burden, but it's an extraordinary opportunity if we can harvest that dividend. I'd also like to share that in terms of the skills that we're producing, every year our institutions of higher learning are churning out about 22,000 graduates from UNAM, but also the TVET sector. All of these young people have got potential. They're ready to make a contribution in the formal economy, and you have to look at that and contrast that against economic performance. Before COVID-19, we were growing at on average 4.55%. Our prudential thresholds say that we should be growing at about 7% GDP every year in order for us to create the space to absorb young people. What happened after COVID? We even started to contract. And there are circumstances that are outside of government control that contribute to the challenges that we have. The president calls them independent intervening variables. Basically, in 2016 to 2018, there was a global economic slowdown. That meant that global trade had declined. The prices of diamond, oil, uranium, gold, they were depressed. So some of our biggest trading partners could not pay the Namibian government as much as they used to. Our SACU receipts started to decline. That means government income was declining. That affected government's ability to spend. So government had to take a fiscal consolidation strategy where we started to reduce government expenditure. That hurt the economy because capital projects declined. We couldn't build as many roads, as many houses, and those are jobs in construction. We also have got adverse economic climatic conditions because of climate change. We see it manifesting in the agricultural sector. And the agricultural sector is so important in Namibia because it creates the most jobs and the most unskilled jobs. 23% of Namibians depend on agriculture as a sector of employment, and for youth jobs, it's the sector that creates the most youth jobs. So no wonder youth unemployment started to spike in 2016-17. We were having a protracted drought. It was followed by seasons of flooding. It was followed by migratory locusts. All of that meant that young people were retrenched during that time. So these are some of the issues that have brought us to where we are now. And in terms of just the governance decisions, what are we going to do to get out of this? Monetary policy, today the Bank of Namibia is going to announce whether the repo rate is going to remain unchanged. That has a real effect on the economy, because when inflation prices go up, we can't spend as much, retail is hurt, services are hurt, buying power is down, the economy is not, money is not moving the way it used to move. Government also has to make decisions on things like where will the new engines of growth come from. Tourism and hospitality were so depressed by COVID-19 and the lockdowns. That's 150,000 jobs that are sustained by the tourism industry. Young people lost jobs because of the lockdowns and the pandemic. Where is the growth going to come from, and how is government going to create new engines of growth while we wait for tourism, construction, agriculture, and all the other traditional drivers to rebound? So government is aggressively driving new industries. We're pioneering in the green and the blue economy. Our fortunes are changing. We are grateful to God that we have been able to discover viable commercial wells of oil. And over the next decade, that will significantly change the landscape of Namibia. We're also grateful to be providing leadership in the synthetic fuels industry, not only for green hydrogen and ammonia, but Namibia is really positioning herself as a center of excellence for green production. That means green steel, green pig iron ore, and these are what we are hoping can generate the hundreds of thousands of jobs that we would not otherwise have been able to rely on in our traditional sectors. As I draw to a close, I just want to highlight that an economy is essentially a collection of businesses. And if we are talking about poor economic performance, we have to ask ourselves, what is it that is affecting Namibian businesses from thriving and growing and scaling sustainably and creating gainful employment for young people? I also want to highlight that unemployment or young people are not homogeneous. And today, as we have this conversation on youth unemployment, we need to understand who is more unemployed in Namibia than whom. We talk about 350,000 unemployed young people. That's the size of the burden. I really think that it's not insurmountable for us to create 350,000 opportunities for young people. The antidote to unemployment is enterprise development. We have to support businesses to grow that can create the opportunities for young people. Whether it's young people creating their own businesses or existing businesses being supported to do more, both of that is a solution. There are at least 50,000 young people in our country who are between the age of 15 to 19. Why are those young people not in school? Our labor laws are very clear that you must be 18 to form part of the formal economy. So we have a question to answer on out-of-school youth, youth in conflict with the law, youth who are in nomadic communities, youth who are adolescent mothers and out of school, young people who are dropping out before they finish grade 10. This is the burden. The unemployed graduates, in contrast to out of school and unskilled youth, is actually the lesser problem to solve. The biggest crisis we have are young people who left school without a grade 10 certificate, and now they're unskilled and unable to progress into the informal economy, and are essentially, and I don't like to use the term, but that's the development language, is unemployable because they're unskilled. So we have to take targeted interventions to meet young people who are out of school in order for us to move the needle on youth unemployment. Let me park there and allow my colleagues to then continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Daisy. Well, you certainly set the scene there. There are a number of threads that I'd like to pick up on, which I think our other panelists certainly can talk to. You highlighted that it is a macroeconomic problem, a lot of extraneous factors that influence it. But yet, obviously, there's also an important need to look at our policies and ensure that we encourage enterprise growth in Namibia. On that point, Hopelang, you've worked in a number of countries within the SADC region and beyond. Would you be able to share with us some ideas or views on what Namibian policymakers can learn from the way in which these other countries have sought to address youth unemployment?
Okay. So thank you very much, Carmen, and very good morning to all of you. Okay, may I try again? I always like to get a response back. So good morning to all of you. Thank you. So, yeah, let me probably then just first of all congratulate Old Mutual Foundation for this gathering. I think it's really an important one. And having had or been in many of such forums, I'm glad to hear that something tangible will come out of it, because there are so many youth employment discussions all over the place, and at the end of the day, in many instances, is after that, so what? So I'm glad this is something that has been addressed, at least going forward for this Indaba, so congratulations on that. Maybe just to build on what Desiree said, and it's really about the complexity of youth unemployment, in the sense that if it was an easy issue, we would find solutions. But the solutions are not so easy, because I think one of the main issues with youth unemployment is that there are so many interventions that are in existence to address the problem. And when you have many of these interventions, if you look at them, and this is from previous experience, is that they are small, they are fragmented, and they are all over the place. Some of them are really good, but the problem is that they always remain small scale, they never get replicated or upscaled. So I think that's one of the things, is how then can we upscale some of these very good initiatives to ensure that they are having the impact that is required. But then I think when we talk about it as well, the coordination of what is happening is really critical. My role where I sit is to coordinate all the United Nations entities in Namibia. And it's a hard task, because you have to be communicating to one another, sharing of information, building on each other's efforts, and that's exactly what we have to do, or that's the approach we need with youth unemployment. Because if we don't have that approach, we'll have so many, as I mentioned, but not having that necessary impact, which is what we need. So in the countries where I have worked and where I have seen the greatest success, is that where we look at unemployment or employment issues from an integrated perspective. Desiree mentioned entrepreneurship. That's one side of the coin. It's not going to solve the problem for youth unemployment. You need to have the skills development. You need to have, the policy angles as well. So it needs a holistic approach. And when we have that holistic approach, I think then it's important for us to ensure that in all what we do in a country, whatever policies we are talking about, they need to have, or we need to look at them through employment lenses. Yeah, so we need to put employment at the center of all the policies and the programs that we have. And we need to plan for this employment, because if we don't plan for it, we can't come back 5 years later and say, oh, how many jobs did we create? Because you never planned for the jobs, therefore you're not going to be able to track and find out the impact that they've had. One of the things that we have worked with is the employment policy. And policies, we have many in the SADC region. The problem is not so much the policies, but it's how we implement those policies. Namibia has had an excellent employment policy, which was really very well structured, looking at how to address the job creation, the sectors, and all of that. The only problem, it never took off. Yeah? And I think this is then the problem, is that these policies, very important, but how then, first of all, do they talk to each other? And secondly, then how do we actually implement them? Because without that, it won't help us moving forward to be able to address this as a long-term solution to the issues of employment. So that, I think, is really critical. And then what is critical as well, and for me sometimes is an issue, Desiree talked about the number of young people who are leaving the universities. Many of them, many of them. But what they're getting from those universities, are they matched to what is on the ground in terms of job opportunities? Because if they are not matched, then we're going to have a skills mismatch problem. Lots of young people who are will end up in the streets looking for ways of making some kind of income, because the formal sector is not going to provide all those jobs. And I think one of the other points which I would like to flag as well is that and I've said it before, I'll say it again though, that we need the private sector, you need the academic institutions, you need government, you need the development partners, you need everybody to be able, this is our problem, and it's not government's problem on its own, because government does not create jobs. It creates the enabling environment to facilitate the jobs to be created. But again, if the economy is not performing, job creation will be a challenge moving forward. So probably my last point is just to mention that initiatives such as, for example, they have the expanded public works programs where it's really about the roads, housing. How do you engage young people in those jobs is really critical. Namibia is on the way to is a pathfinding country for what is known as the Global Accelerator on jobs and social protection for just transitions. And this is a high-level impact initiative in order for Namibia to accelerate and to be able to address issues of youth employment in terms of reaching the Sustainable Development Goals. Because whatever we are doing in Namibia as a country is because Namibia too, as a member state of the UN, has subscribed to the Sustainable Development Goals. And therefore this high-level impact, all of government approach, all of society approach, to be able to start teasing on the issues of youth employment in Namibia. And the UN, we are ready, we continue to engage in this space because it's such an important issue for any country, including Namibia. Thank you.
Thank you, Hopalong. So what I took from what you shared was a lot, but the key points that stood out for me was the importance to have a holistic view. It's not just going to be a few people pulling in different directions, and there's not necessarily anything wrong with our policies. It's really how we implement them. So if I can maybe turn to Patty as our corporate and Old Mutual representative. What is Old Mutual doing towards assisting in building employment opportunities for Namibia, or Namibians, should I say? And do you believe that Namibians are suitably equipped for the positions that companies like Old Mutual can offer to them?
Thank you, Carmen. Before I respond, I need to acknowledge Martha Marorwa, the MD of Nedbank. And I think she's here today because she's got such a passion for youth. So thank you so much, Martha, for joining us. Yes, Carmen, so I'll take it from three angles. And I must say, Old Mutual is there to support government in initiatives. We're not doing government's work. We're not against government, we support government. And how do we support government in youth unemployment or unemployment in the whole? Of course, we pay our normal taxes and to enable government to set the scene in getting the groundwork and the framework ready for us. But also we participate in all government initiatives where these things are discussed, and we actively participate to see how we can do it. And I'm proud to say that Old Mutual employment rate is 98%, if not more, Namibians. So we're extremely proud of the employment rate in Namibia for Namibians. So that is one thing I needed to just state up front. The initiatives that we also do is, yes, we have a big drive to employ people in Namibia, but also our internship program that Minyun talked about. I think we're extremely proud of that because it's really giving people the exposure in the workplace. If you look at exposure in the workplace, whenever there is a vacancy, it's always you must have experience. And the question we asked ourselves, where are these people going to get experience if we don't give it ourselves? And that is why we decided we're going to do internship program where they can put on CV that they've been with Old Mutual. And I mean, it's a known fact that Old Mutual is regarded as the training ground of Namibian people. Because we always just grow, and the others institutions just take them up and they get the road running. And Martha is laughing because she knows I'm right. But besides the internship program, Old Mutual is set on creating frameworks and foundation, not just looking at after school, but within school as well. And people already in the work, in the job market, how do we create that? I think this exciting initiative that we just closed off is the OMC program, where we really motivate people to be entrepreneurial and to get out there, because we know institutions can't create jobs for all of us. And if we don't create jobs for ourselves, there will be challenges. And these are the type of things that as Old Mutual, we see it and we do it, and we help the Namibian economy to grow. Because if the Namibian economy grow, all of us do well, Old Mutuals can create more jobs. So it's a ripple effect for all of us to make sure that we create proper jobs. I think even at school level, we've for years have sponsored the best school learners to motivate people, because we've just heard on the statistics on 50,000 unemployable. And I think that is the type of level that we need to go down, even at school level as well, to see how we can motivate our youngsters to stay in schools. That is very important for us. And the second part of the question, just quickly, Carmen, is Namibians are equipped. Namibians are resilient. Namibians know what they want. We need to just implement and see what we can do and how we can do it. And it's not a matter of whether we can do it, it's just when we can do it. So we must just set the scene for ourselves. Yes, we need, and I think Parora's talked about coordination. Let's coordinate and do it. The thing is, we shouldn't leave people with expertise that's coming from other countries in the cold, because we can learn from them. So as Namibians, let's be open to learn, and when the time is right, we can fill it. Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you, Patty. I must say, if I weren't already an employee at Old Mutual, I would have probably gone and submitted my CV straight away after hearing all of that. All right. Rebecca, so you actually the officially only unemployed person sitting up here this morning as a final year law student. And hearing these statistics, I'm sure you're quite aware of this. You've been talking to your friends, thinking about your future. How are you dealing with this uncertainty?
All right, good morning. Thank you so much for the question, Carmen. Also, just allow me to thank Old Mutual, because platforms such as this are a beacon of hope to young people to understand that there are people that understand the issue and there are people that want to aid and resolve that issue. And as a final year law student, I'm still not unemployed yet up until December, so I'm still on the bounce. But the fear is there because you are cognizant of what is happening around you. But as a young person, I would say look at it in a positive but realistic manner. It's very important for you to understand or ask yourself the question, how do I not become part of the problem? Because unemployment is a problem, but there are ways that you could aid yourself to make sure that you don't fall part of the statistics. Even in situations where it's inevitable, it is out of your control, at least you have tried to implement measures that could help you not fall part of the statistics. I would like to touch on personal development. As a young person, it's very important for you to utilize tools around you, such as social media. Even the traditional ways of social media, newspapers, you have LinkedIn, you have Instagram. They are not just job opportunities that are advertised, But there are also learning opportunities. There are programs such as NDTC, I believe. They had a jewelry masterclass. And in as much as it's not maybe speaking to your aspirations, it is a platform for you to engage in a new skill set that is needed in the country. And also you need to understand as a young person that it's up to you to put yourself out there. You know, there's a meme that rounds around that your partner won't come find you at home. It's the same thing. Your employer will not come find you at home. So you need to make sure that you look at platforms that are there so that you also network and value people when you're networking. Your employer is not just going to be an executive. It would be great if an executive hunts you, but it's the simplest people that have the simplest jobs that need to know what are you good at and how can you be a valuable asset to their organizations or agency. And another thing is education. You need to be, I think COVID-19 taught us that the world is not stagnant. It keeps revolving, it keeps moving, and you need to keep moving with the times. You need to be a person who's relevant to the changes that are happening in the world. For example, Namibia has so many new developments. You have green hydrogen, you have discoveries of oil and mining. Ask yourself as a young person, even if I am in the legal department or in the finance department or in the marketing department, how do I respond to the new developments so that I'm employable? I think as a young person, really be positive and also put yourself out there. Be very careful about your personal branding. People should know what you're good at, what is your talent, and what you can do for them. Not just the problem that you are sulking in, because at the end of the day, I think Namibia has done a good job in creating an enabling environment for us young people to thrive in. Remember, government is not just supposed to be your employer, but it's supposed to create a conducive environment that helps you attain yourself in a position that you can also employ other people. So even when you're acquiring the skills and developing yourself as a person, do not just look at yourself as an employee, but also rather look at yourself as an employer, and at the end of the day, how you are going to shift and be part of the change that you want to see within the economic system, within the Namibian system.
Thank you, Rebecca. I really like the take you have on it, that we need to be empowered, even as youth looking for employment. That's fantastic. And I loved your connection with between looking for an employer and looking for a partner. I never thought of LinkedIn as being a dating site for employers. Yeah, but it's actually quite true. You know, we shouldn't just accept any employer. You need to think carefully. This is a long-term arrangement. So, yeah, thanks for that take. So, Lisa, you're the kind of person that someone that Rebecca would approach once she ends her tenure at UNAM and is looking for a position. As a job finder coach, do you have any insights that you could share with our young people in terms of how they can look for the right job and prepare themselves for that?
Thank you very much, Carmen. Good morning, everyone, and good morning to our online viewers. I know they are often neglected. Thank you, Old Mutual, for the opportunity, and it's time for me now to spill the tea. I think the other panelists have been. So, as a job seeker, it's very, very important to market yourself. And how do you market yourself? Very, very important. The marketing tool that we use, anyone, I believe everyone in this room must have a CV. So if you don't have a CV, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, please see me after the session. But it's an important marketing tool that we use, because when we apply for jobs, the people that are sitting on the other side do not know you. And to spill the tea, it takes about 6 seconds for HR or hiring managers to determine whether or not you are the right candidate for the job, or you should be shortlisted. Therefore, if your CV doesn't have the right information that is required, if it's missing some information, if we need to call you and there's no way to contact you, we move on to the next. And young people always say, #we move. So it's very, very important in terms of your marketing tool. The second aspect is in terms of 80% of jobs are not advertised. Again, I'm spilling the tea. And why is that so? Recruitment is a very, very expensive exercise. Patricia can attest from an HR perspective. advertising in newspapers lately, it can cost you about 20,000 Namibian dollars just for a small vacancy. And a lot of companies are saving money, hence LinkedIn is a advertising platform, or because the time it takes to sit in interviews, imagine having to sit hours. Companies have strategic objectives that they need to advertise. Therefore, they rather look out for people that are available. So if you don't tell somebody that you're looking for a job, when the position becomes vacant, you want to get hold of those 80% of roles that are not advertised. And on a daily basis, I get calls from recruiters, companies, and say, Lisa, I'm looking for a receptionist. I'm looking for an HR manager. I'm starting up a company. I'm looking for these kind of people. And what do? As an HR consultant, I'm also not going to advertise jobs, because if you advertise for a CEO, you even find grade 12 people that are applying for that. So having to go through that process is also a bit tedious. So we rather find out, or what we call headhunting, and say who is looking for a job or who is suitable for a job. Though it's very, very important as a job seeker to put yourself out there, as Rebecca mentioned, because if you don't, shoot your shot. We are here in terms of youth unemployment. So please network. I'm seeing quite a lot of recruiters here. So your future employer is sitting in this room. And the last point I want to touch on, Carmen, is, and Old Mutual, please forgive me for this one. At times, job seekers focus in terms of the big brands. So Miss Martha is here. You want to work for Nedbank. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a good company. But also start looking at SMEs. That is where your career you want to start. As an HR consultant myself, I've created opportunities for young graduates, because that is where you want to start your career. And after a few years, 2 years from now, a year from now, you get to join Old Mutual, and you have already received the exposure and the experience that you're looking for. Because if you are not part of the graduate trainee program for Old Mutual or any other organization in Namibia, we all know that you need to have 5 years experience to get a job, and that you can't get anywhere. So please focus in terms of the SMEs. They give or provide great exposure, and your learning experience is accelerated at a pace where maybe somebody in a corporate world might actually be neglected. And based on that, when you attend all these seminars, you actually even get to network and reach other job seekers. So it's very, very important to look at that and volunteer your skills. I know we live in a country where the cost of living is highly expensive, but the other day Mufaro actually mentioned that he started the job by volunteering his skills. So when you get the job, and for those that follow me, you understand that when you get an opportunity to shine, so that you want to be that employee. Even if you're an intern, they don't want to get rid of you. They will find and create that job for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm sure lots of people are going to be rushing forward. I hope you've got many business cards at hand. That was really insightful, and I agree with you. You know, getting exposure, even at a small company, gives you the opportunity to learn a lot of different skills. You often have to be a jack of all trades, and that brings a lot of experience then to your bigger name, a brand named employer then later on. Thank you. So I'd like to ask Hopalong, you are very passionate about mentoring and coaching young people. How would you say we can engage more effectively with young people about youth unemployment? Because they also have a voice in this, and how can we engage with them?
Okay, thank you for the question, and I think Lisa said it quite nicely. But I think one of the things is, even as the UN and I think many entities, we talk about engaging young people in the discussion. But sometimes I think we don't really try to appreciate what it is that they can bring to the table in terms of the discussions around how we can actually address this animal. Yeah? And sometimes we think we know the answers, but we are not talking to them. I mean, even today we are just talking to a small sector. There are sectors which I often say, which we sometimes forget about. Daisy touched upon those ones who are not in school, who are not employed, who are in the informal economy, why we need to talk to them. Because the point is that if we don't talk to them, we are missing out on a whole other group of young people. So I think we have to understand, and as has been said, that youth are not homogeneous, they're heterogeneous. Therefore, we need to touch on different aspects and to be able, or categories of young people, to be able then to see how we can really bring them into this discussion. I also feel that we need to have more innovative and different ways of engagement with young people as well, because obviously what we've been doing is not working, or we would be doing things a lot better than what we are doing now. So I do believe that we need that engagement. We need also to tap on ideas. I'm glad and very excited about the program which Old Mutual has for interns. UN, we have interns as well over there. And I think the UN too provides a wonderful opportunity in terms of beyond Namibia. Because when I look at where I started, I was in Lesotho, I come from Lesotho, that's where I started. I mean, the UN wasn't really on my radar, but once I got into it and lived in all these countries, it opens your eyes to totally different experiences, which you then can be able to bring back to your home country, to the region, and say, we can try this a little bit differently. This is what is happening in X country or X country. So how other young people are engaging in other countries, very different from how we are doing it here in Namibia. So certainly I feel that we still need to find new, innovative ways of bringing in that engagement and saying, okay, how do you see this problem? How do you think we can resolve it? And we move forward. One of the issues too, which I think is missing though, is that the youth don't have an umbrella body which even the UN can work with. So we find that we are working with small little pockets of young people. And I think what would be most useful is if we had an umbrella body, but representing everybody and not a certain category, a certain class, but really trying to address it from a very holistic. Back to my wonderful point of coordinated umbrella body, I think that could also be one way forward.
Thank you so much. So this Indaba is really Old Mutual's way of creating an opportunity for us to engage with the youth on this topic. And I will soon be opening the floor to questions to allow for our audience to pose those questions to our panelists. But Rebecca, as a youth sitting with us this morning, do you think there are any legislative or educational system changes that may be required to empower you or equip you as the youth to be able to find jobs more easily and also to be able to build and sustain businesses of your own?
Thank you so much, Carmen. The question relates to my research topic. My supervisor was saying it's a bit odd because it's not very legal oriented, but it is. I will explain. My topic is based on how to upscale small micro businesses using legislation. And this is because the government has done so well in terms of creating legislations and frameworks. You have the National Development Plan, you have the National Policy on Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises. But there's one that is lacking that needs to speak directly to startups because they have a difficult journey in terms of starting up and being sustainable. And we have seen that over the years, there are so many small businesses, even street vendors that have been able to put through kids through universities. But now it's important to make sure that we use our legal system to not only guide them, but safeguard their operations. And I'm speaking to this because Namibia is a very well-governed country in terms of we are able to respond to the Sustainable Development Goals, such as the 4th one, which is based on quality education, as well as the 8th one, which is based on decent work for all and economic growth. So ideally, a Startup Act would provide a means of how to safeguard the operations of businesses so that they remain sustainable. You would look at tax breaks, for example, for businesses because let's be realistic. In your first 3 years as a startup, you are not guaranteed to always be making a profit. You are not always going to break even. That means that there needs to be a legislation that allows you to sort of not really already compete with the big leagues, but it allows you to match up that way to compete with the big leagues, and also to make sure that you don't have monopolies that are running around. And another thing that we also need to look at is the financing. We have so many companies that are financing young people to start their businesses. For example, you even have MTC that has a Dreamers project that funds their own employers. But at times, our young people might not know how to properly utilize their financing. Hence why it's important to have not just a policy, but a legislation that sort of binds you so that you use it in the right way. And just to conclude shortly, the Startup Act is one that needs to be crafted in a way that is realistic to the Namibian economy, that is realistic to how we go about implementing our laws, how we go about enforcing them, because it takes time. But it also needs to be fast-tracked so that once where we are at in Vision 2030, at least when we get there, we have achieved something that is sustainable, something that makes sense, but most importantly, something that is legally binding.
Sure. Thank you, Rebecca. Again, it seems that the will is there, the desire is there, but maybe the way we implement it is not the best. And from what you said, it seems that mentorship is quite important for young people. Yeah. Okay. I'd like to open to the floor now. If there are any questions, also perhaps if there are any online questions that have been posted, hopefully one of our team is keeping track of those. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to pose a question. May I please ask that you keep it short so that we can give as many people as possible an opportunity to ask a question. If you'd like to direct it to any of our panelists, please indicate who you would like to direct your question to. Otherwise, you can leave it to us to decide who's best placed to answer. All right, so I see there's a lady on the left here. Sorry, I can't see you. Please state your name and then your question. Thank you.
1, 2. Hello, can you? Mic check, 1, 2. Yes. Good morning, everybody. My name is Michelle Shipeka-Borati-Ndabi. I am very, very grateful to the Old Mutual platforms for opening up doors for me. I was definitely an intern. Martha might actually know me. I was actually working on her floor with Nancy and all that. I'm very, very grateful because that actually opened a lot of doors for me. I really can't say that I have a problem with unemployment because I've been employed ever since 2013 to this date. Okay, not now because now I decided to go venture into business, but I'm very, very grateful for that platform. I was a learner at Eros Girls School, and that's how I actually ventured into Old Mutual's flows. With that being said, I was a student at Eros Girls School. I finished there, but then my cry actually goes to. I feel like I've actually written all your names down here because it's kind of a take from every one of you. The thing is that when I finished at Eros Girls School, I would actually hope that I can actually get into the University of Namibia or Polytechnic as it was back then and stuff like that, but it wasn't the case. The systems were not linked. I even tried going to NQA so that they can assess me and then I can go back to University of Namibia or whatsoever, but that wasn't the case. They couldn't even assess me coming from a Namibian educational background. With that being said, my cry is just that the next child who is actually now at Eros Girls School, what platforms are there for them? Because I am very, very, I strive regardless of whatever the situation might be. But then what about the one that can't really strive? Or what about the one that can't really stand up and try to fight for themselves? Because as I said, I have been employed ever since 2013 to now self-employed. So, but then what about that child that can't really fight, or the system has actually just jacked them up and they decided, yeah, let me just sit down. Because now I'm actually venturing into mental health spaces and stuff like that. I recently had a parent and child mental health conference at Stan Barnabas in Karatura, and it was a great outcome. But now the thing is that I'm going to go back to the question. what about the child that can't fight the system? So what about the child that can't think for themselves? Let me just start a business opportunity, or let me just start selling fat cakes or whatsoever. What about that child from Aries Girls School?
Who would like to take that question? Anybody? Daisy.
Thank you for the question. And it's a reality for many young people. The truth is that we've got such a high attrition rate, and it's a phenomenal contradiction, because the child who government is educating in primary school is not able to proceed to high school. The product is sometimes not good enough to progress. And from high school, that child also struggles to find pathways into tertiary. I think reforms are ongoing. We've seen the changes in the education system in 2016, the curriculum, to stop that exodus at grade 10 so that young people no longer have to leave the education system because they failed to pass grade 10. It's now a dual track, and a child can find a track on TVET if they don't pursue academic. That has done a lot to keep young people in the education system. What happens after grade 12, we look at the pass rates and the qualifying grades in order for you to go to university. And the country has put that threshold on the 25 points in order for you to qualify for university. But what we often forget is that somebody with 22, 23, 24 points can find a pathway at a college, at a technical vocation center. It is not always a dead end just because you do not qualify to get into NUST or to UNAM. The pathways are there. And this is where I think our government is actually doing particularly well to create those safety nets for young people who are at risk of being left out of tertiary education. The COSDEC, Kayak, NAMCO models, those are unique models to Namibia, and they've helped to give young people a second opportunity to continue progressing and skilling themselves, even though they have not been able to qualify necessarily for a bachelor's degree. Cooperative education is not legislated in the country. We don't have a law that mandates private sector to provide internship and training opportunities to young people. We don't believe you have to make laws for people to do what is right. Business has also got a moral imperative to prepare the pipeline, to train for the industry. But together with government, we're now working on a national internship and apprenticeship program that will look at the public sector and the private sector. And we understand the economy is tough. SMEs cannot afford to take interns the same way Old Mutual can, because of the cost to upkeep and train young people. But we do, as government, now commit to incentivize private sector to create these opportunities for young people, because it's so important to give young people that first opportunity, skilled or unskilled. Thank you.
Yes?
Much, and let me say thank you to Old Mutual and Carmen. I think this is a wonderful opportunity to discuss what is a wicked problem in our country. I have just a couple of questions. Yes, my name, yes, indeed, that one I do forget. My name is Kengom Chombu, and I've been in several places. I was at UNAM previous, and currently I am at IUM. I want to say this, that my heart shudders when I hear someone say that there are youth who are unemployable, you can't do anything with them. I think no human being can ever be worthless. Some of the most successful businesses today have been started by people who are supposedly failures. There is a major problem with education systems that sometimes they don't educate, but they actually miseducate. I want, however, to bring a question. Is this going to be a one-off, or is this the starting of what we'll see as a series of encounters where we look at this problem? And I think that goes to you particularly. Secondly, would you consider that the youth unemployment problem is not only about failure, but we do have youth who are very successful? Would you consider us learning from them as well? Not only from those who are struggling, but also from those who have succeeded. How did they succeed? How can others succeed? And finally, there are institutions now who are working very hard to come up with solutions in their own small way, but they are working very hard. What we probably lack, the vacuum there, is that each one is working alone somewhere there, a little bit like in the Bible, John in the wilderness, making a lot of noise but nobody hearing. Would you consider one of these encounters, working with the other partners, to bring together those who are working on this problem so we can learn from each other and build on a foundation that is strong? Namibia is a big country with a very small population. And when you look at the purchasing power, you get even smaller. So part of the solution may lie not in looking into ourselves, but looking outwards, a Singaporean type of solution, so that we look out into terms of how can we reach out, how can we train our youth to reach out and not be afraid to cross the borders and do business outside of Namibia. Thank you again, and thank you for welcoming us here today. We look forward to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. Patsy, would you take that?
Thank you for the question and questions. Yes, and as you already answered yourself, that it is not going to be a once-off thing, but also talking about the successes. I think we have 3 more sessions, and there are people who are going to talk about the success stories as well, to give motivation to the youth on unemployment. And we keep on, and I think if you've seen the video, it is we promote successes, because if we see success, it will help others to get motivated as well. And we will certainly take up your suggestion that we come together and see how our youth can explore opportunities outside. And I see Mrs. Maroro knocking her head, so I'll knock on her door, and then as industry we can look at how we can create that platform. Thank you very much.
Seems like there are lots of questions on this side of the room, but let me give Ms. Maroro the opportunity to speak, and then the young lady in the tan jacket. Thank you.
So good morning, and thanks for inviting me. It's really an honor. And as Petty said, I'm really passionate about youth and obviously trying to resolve the unemployment problems. And I don't want to promote a function that will come up, but we'll also have a youth summit. And when I was listening to Mrs. From, let me just say, UNDP, I actually resonate with her question, because we are doing so many things in the market, and everyone is trying to do a small thing. And my question is directed to Daisy. In terms of government, how can we coordinate all these efforts so that we can create something that is sustainable, something that can make a lasting impact? Because I will have a youth summit. Now it's the Youth Indaba. And we are trying to address all the same problems, but in terms of the outcome, we will probably see here and there the impact, but it is not a national impact. So how can we create all the institutions in Namibia, financial services, you know, we can already hold hands as Nedbank and Old Mutual, but how do we bring others on board to create that sustainable solution? And I can tell you there is a youth employment services program in South Africa, spearheaded from the President's office. So we probably need to look at a nature or initiative of that nature so that we can bring it on board and everyone can employ 30 youth on a yearly basis or 100 youth on a yearly basis, just to give them that internship that is needed. Thank you.
You ask a difficult thing. The day I solve that problem is the day that I'm out of a job, and I'm happy to work myself out of that job, because coordination and coherence is what is going to enable us to just have a targeted impact. It's about impact. I want to say, though, that we shouldn't be discouraged. I didn't use the word fragmentation today, because, you know, there are 800,000, the data is old, NSA will give us the new census, but as of today, we know that there's 800,000 young people in the country. That's who we are serving, that's who we are talking about now. Personally, it's difficult to reach 800,000 young people. So we need a critical mass. We need multiple efforts. But the key here is that they need to be decentralized, not only in the urban areas, because the young people in the remote rural areas are actually the ones who are disproportionately excluded from these efforts, these trainings, these information sessions. Internet is helping us now with virtual, but we are also aware and alive to the digital divide. People can't afford data to live stream for 3 hours. But be that as it may, I just want to say our collective and individual impacts, our individual impacts will make that collective difference. So I, sitting at the office of the president, find nothing wrong with the financial sector and the mining sector and, hospitality, each one of them driving a youth agenda, because every minister to me is a minister of youth. The Minister of Education, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Fisheries, the Minister of Economy and Trade, they are presiding over a very young Namibia. And it's in my interest that they mainstream the youth agenda and put it at the heart of development. So there's no policymaker today that will call a meeting and not ask themselves, where are the young people? Is there representation? Is there a voice? What do they think? Have we had their inputs on the design? That doesn't happen in government anymore. I think we are all really putting youth issues at the heart of our development agenda. But in terms of a national coordinated initiative, I think there's 3 things I want to say. One is we elevated SME development to the presidency. In 2020, the president lifted that mandate alone and put it in the NIPDB and brought the NIPDB on his lap. Because of how important the MSME coordination agenda is, we need an apex coordinating agency in government. We created one. That is now NIPDB. They're responsible for 2 things. Find the money, investment, foreign and local, and then secondly, create industry. Put that money into industry through SME development. We do have, at the moment, still quite a lot of challenges with the ecosystem. Our SMEs struggle to break through the first 36 months. There's a high mortality rate of SMEs. We know that from the financial sector because you give them money and within 36 months the business has folded, they cannot pay back the money. And that talks now to the different levels. Once we've given them the demand, is there mentorship, is there coaching, is there premises, is there quality assurance, competitiveness? What about technical proficiencies? Are they the standards? So there's a lot that has to be put in place to support a business to survive, and those institutions are there, be it the Competition Commission, the NSI, and all of them have to coordinate. How do we use technology? How do we create market access? Government makes up 65% of the market economy. So we are very intentional to use procurement as a muscle. We've reformed the procurement law. There's now preference for SMEs. There's a code of good practice. We want young, black, indigenous Namibians because that's where the need is. All of that is in law, and it's happening actually. I think we're not good at telling our own stories. What are we doing at the presidency? A flagship project. You gave us the example of YES. I alluded to it, but I didn't speak directly. Now I'll speak directly. I think it was a month ago that our Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister tabled the National Internship and Apprenticeship Program. And this National Internship and Apprenticeship Program is so important to us because there are young people like Rebecca who need work-integrated learning. She's finishing. She needs to be prepared to transition. Then there's the graduate who just finished, but they cannot secure the first opportunity. I mentioned there's no law, so nothing forces Lisa to give a graduate an opportunity because she doesn't have to comply. But she has to do the right thing, and I'm glad her corporate conscience allows her to do the right thing. As government, we realize that we need to incentivize businesses to do this. So the Minister of Finance is working towards tax reliefs and rebates. The more young people you give an opportunity, the more kickbacks you get. It's a first. We haven't done it. And government is not in the best fiscal space to give those kinds of kickbacks. But we recognize that we need each other to respond to this problem. The last thing I want to mention is we're here at a foundation. This is CSI. This is part of the social development agenda. Personally, I'm also the advisor that's responsible for social progress. And social progress is one of the most underfunded sectors because it's not always commercially viable for you to put up social infrastructure. Low-cost housing, sports stadiums, clinics, those things don't make money. Houses, but that's what needs, that's the dignity of life of Namibians. And we need, I think, to forge a deeper partnership, a deeper compact between our foundations and the government, just so that we can align the priority. Because there's a lot of money that's actually deployed from industry. And from my point of view, with all humility, I think we don't fully appreciate the contribution of private sector to the social development agenda. And when Old Mutual or MTC build houses, it's jobs. Those are young, it's catalytic. Those are construction jobs. When we build schools and classrooms, those are opportunities we create for young people. So I will be coming back to you, Martha and Patty, because we're also working on an alliance between the public and the private sector, specifically on the social agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Desiree. We are running out of time, I'm afraid. So I saw 2 hands up here, so 3. Can I ask you to each pose your question, and then I'm going to give each of our panelists the opportunity, starting with Patty, for a few closing remarks, and in their closing remarks, if they'd like to respond to any of the questions, they can do so. All right, so if we can take one question after the other, the lady here, then one further back, and then the lady in the red. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you.
Let me go first. Good morning, all. Thank you very much, Old Mutual, for such a wonderful platform where we can tackle an issue that is actually a cry to the nation. So I wanted, Desiree mentioned that unemployed graduates, they form actually a very small percentage of unemployment rate. I wanted to ask, how do they find themselves in that position where I am a graduate and I'm unemployed? And also, should universities or institutes, should they not be held liable for providing courses that they know that in the Namibian market, it will be difficult for you to get a job once you do finish with your field? Don't they also need to be held liable for that? And also, how do I, as an unemployed youth, also to say, how do I avoid falling into studying a field that I will struggle with getting a job in the Namibian market? I hope my question was clear. I'm a bit nervous. But
Desiree, let's just take all the questions and then you can respond in your closing remarks. Okay, thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Hetty Nalumbu. I actually have a few points, right? But what I can start with is how do we integrate people with disability into our economy where that they can actually function and work and be in the work sector? Number one, the deaf community. These people are smart, but we all can't speak their language, right? I'm currently studying sign language, and I'm a medium. I can actually speak the language, so to say, right? But most of those people, when some of them are not even taken into formal schooling because they are deemed as stupid or so forth, but their language is just different from how we speak. And then the other thing is the possibility where we can probably change our education system right at the grassroots, because we are trying to produce academics, right? But if we see other economies that are striving, they are actually more on the vocational side of things and sports as well, right? And this is my burden. Why don't we have sport experts where already as a child your talent is identified? Yes, you should have basic math, you should know how to read, but at a young age, you should be able to specialize in sport already from grade 3. You are doing sports for a number of years. And then the other thing is driving licenses. Driving licenses can be an opportunity to have a job, but our legal age is 18 here in the state, I believe is 16. And how can we integrate that most of our youth, if you finish grade 12, you already have a driving license, whereas you get it around your schooling system, so to say, and it's made cheaper in a way that every student has an opportunity to almost be a safe driver, so to say. And then the procurement system in Namibia, HR as well. I think I've found I have tons of degree, right? I've applied for positions that I believe all my qualifications to my master's, doing my second master's in oil right now. But for the past almost 10 years, I can't get an interview, so to say. How does HR evolve with all, I get it, my CV, I've gone to someone to do my CV and all of that. How does HR evolve from being, like, if I have a degree in economics, can I not do administration work for the time being? You know, how do we evolve as HR to, like, take on a broader aspect of the qualification, and sometimes to also understand the degrees, because accounting, we have CFA, we have so forth, and there are a lot of accreditation, and most people have not gotten opportunity because the HR managers actually don't understand the qualification. And then the other thing is corporation as well, Old Mutual and others, right? For most of our corporations are tied to South Africa. We know that for the fact. And they've procured different stuff, including corporate wear, sportswear, from South African companies for years, right? But we have Namibian startups which have evolved to an opportunity that I can actually provide your cycling kits for this event. But because I haven't been in the industry for long, I'm asking, but who are you? Can you do this? Are you at the same quality as this brand and so forth, and you're building a new brand? And so how can corporation ensure that, because if money stays in the economy, I'll spend it on Namibian product, I'll spend it on Namibian shops, I pay school fees for my kids who are Namibian, the money actually stays here. And then the other thing is parasport as well, right? Again, it ties down with people with disability, because we have people are on different spectrums. How do we ensure that those kids are educated and that their talents are recognized as well? And then the final thing, like most companies like Old Mutual require us to be a registered business, right? But to be a registered business, I need a social security certificate, which asks me that I need to have one employee. But as a startup, the minimum wage, I think, is $72 per hour in Namibia, roughly 1,500 per month, right? As a startup, if my entire capital is trying to market myself through social media marketing, and I can't afford an employee, and I can't place myself there as an employee, but I need to register my company just to be able to stand in the bidding to design cups for Old Mutual per se, you know? How can we change that to make sure that SMEs are actually empowered fully to even register for a company? Thank you.
Right. Good morning, colleagues, morning panelists, and our moderator. I'll be straight to the point. I think that Her Excellency, our resident coordinator of the UN, it's lovely to have you on the panel, made a very valid point this morning. I think you opened up a can of worms, which was coordination. I think one of my quotes that I absolutely love is that everyone says something needs to be done, but what needs to be done? No one knows what to do. And I really want to congratulate this event that we're having today, and also Nedbank for their youth summit, and so many other efforts that's being done within the country, but coordination. But I also want to say, I don't know who spoke about, I think it was you, Desiree, that said, market yourself. We need to also start talking about our individual efforts. If I look around this room, I recognize some of our faces, some of the people sitting here. There's a lot of efforts that we are doing individually in our private capacities that people don't know about it. And I just want to encourage each and every one of us, especially the youth, especially as young people. Today, this is not only a platform for us to learn, but I believe that Old Mutual has set up this day for us to network and to learn from each other as young people. So throughout the day, please market yourself, tell people your story, and you'll be so surprised. Look, I mean, Nedbank and Old Mutual set a brilliant example for us, you know, saying like, oh, we're also planning this, and Desiree picked up on the conversation from government. Oh, I'll set up a meeting between the two of you. We need to take this further. I promise you, within our little conversations today, you'll be surprised how we can even just in our individual capacities collaborate and coordinate with each other. And then Rebecca, you stole the show, if I have to say it, personally for me, because I could resonate so much to what you said. Young people, we need to make ourselves employable. There's nothing that just makes my hair stand when a young person says, Nicole, I can't find a job. I don't know how to find a job. I'm like, okay, so what are you doing to get a job? No, I have a CV. Okay, how many CVs have you handed out? No, 3-year, 2-year. I'm like, okay, and you've been unemployed for how long? For 2 years. And you've only handed out 5 CVs? How many executives have you actually met? How many people have you gone and said, I want to stick you for a coffee, or I want to go to you? How many companies have you walked door to door to actually go and try and find an employment? Young people, you need to make yourself employable. I am a testimony of that. I mean, I volunteered, I interned, I did the most. I put myself out there for 9 months straight out of university. And in fact, during university, I also interned. And what happened after 9 months out of university, my current employer found me. And she didn't find me sitting on a desk where I was volunteering. She actually found my work, because I was off that day, because I was interning. I was like, I'm not getting paid for this. Like, I'm going to, work flexible hours. But I was so intentional to open up a staff file that I actually put in the director of the center's office in her cabinet, and I labeled the file Nicole Willemse volunteer staff file. So it was not difficult for my current employer, when my current boss walked in and said, you're doing all of this work, but your staff component is very small. How are you managing this? That director just took out my files like, no, there's this young girl. This is her work. Every single day I wrote down what I did, and I forced that lady to sign off with the date stamp to say, what did I do? Okay. So make yourself employable. I marketed myself without me even being there. And for 2 years now, I am employed.
Thank you.
And then lastly, I also want to say, as young people, Desiree spoke, and we all know about it, the new emerging markets, the blue economy, the green economy. I want to say, I think as Namibians, our biggest fear is that these new economies will be hijacked by foreigners, and that us as local Namibians will not see anything. We will not reap the fruits and the benefits of these new markets. But I want to say it starts with us. And once again, it starts with us as young people. We need to own these new markets. We need to own it even from the point of our studies. We spoke about, and I think you mentioned, unemployed graduates. Why don't we finish our studies? Okay, fine. There are more than enough accountants out there. But there's new emerging markets. You've been unemployed for 3 years, 2 years, 5 years. Why don't you go back to school and reskill yourself for the new emerging markets? We need to prepare ourselves for what's coming. So young people, I really, you see, I'm supposed to be in sick leave in bed, but this conversation is just too important to just let it have hanging. We need to reskill ourselves, because I'm telling you, once this promise of these new markets open up, if we are not ready as young Namibians to take up those jobs, the reality is someone else is going to come and take that job that was supposed to be yours. So please reskill. And then my question goes to Desiree. With these new emerging markets, what are those skills that are lacking in Namibia that we as young people need to prepare ourselves on? And then I'm really looking forward to hearing the voices of the young men for the rest of the day. I love the women panel, but young men, I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you. Thank you.
So some weighty questions for you to ponder as you share your concluding remarks. We'll start with Patty and then we'll move down chronologically and ending with Hopalong. Patty, over to you. 1 minute, please, if possible.
Yes. Thank you, Carmen. Maybe in my concluding remarks, I'll also just address some of the questions, and then we have 2 with 1. I think some of the people in the audience asked about degrees versus vocational, and I actually just want us, I think for our young people specifically, it is a mindset. We all want degrees because it gives us some title. I think we must start moving away from that. I think we need to say, what is relevant for me as a person, and how can I get forward in life and the way I do it? Forget about going to university, do a B admin degree, and you sit as an unemployed youth for 10 years. It doesn't serve you. So let us do introspection as youth on where best to fit in. And then I think someone also asked, shouldn't the universities be held liable for pushing us into, universities don't decide what you do, you decide. And I think it's important that before you enter into that degree, that you decide what you want to do, and then you go for it. But unfortunately, if I get 22 points, I can only do B admin. So it starts way before grade 12. So let us do ourselves a service and actually start working and do those mathematics. If I want to become the petroleum engineer, that my job is waiting for me when we get green energy, when we get petroleum, because we all know this is the way it's going. Of course, the new horizon that we're getting in terms of green energy and petroleum is not just petroleum engineers. There's a lot of auxiliary things that need to be done. So let us prepare ourselves as young people to actually step into those positions. And the other thing is, don't struggle on your own. I think one of the members said, I can't even register because I don't have an employee. Let us club together and see how we can do it all together. Let us do HR together, IT together. You can still do your own thing, but let us see how we can work together and win together as a nation. Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you so much, Carmen. Just to wrap up, I think there was a question that was posed on those that are in grade 12 or those that are still in school, and how can they have opportunities that allow themselves to do better for themselves. And I think that starts with us as individuals. When you progress, it's important that you also plow back to those that are behind you. As young people, we also need to get into the system of supporting one another, the system of encouraging one another. Because if you see a job post that you're not qualified for, but there's another person that you know they have skills for, plug them, because once you plug them, they plug you. It's a plugging method. And another thing on how to make sure that you don't fall in the wrong degree at university, I think the question came from this side as well, is that know who you are and know what you're passionate about. A lot of people speak about passion, but it's very important for you to identify it when you're making important life decisions, such as the course that you're going to study. And realizing your passion, also be realistic about what your country needs, what your economy needs, and also what the globe needs. Jobs are not just in Namibia, they're also outside of Namibia. So it's important to identify your niche and structure it in a way that gives you opportunities. And last but not least, as young people, I think we should also value conversation. conversations. There are a lot of youth summits and so many conversations that we feel like it's always people talking and there's no action, but that is action because it gives you new skills. It gives you a new perspective. It gives you knowledge on what is out there, on what you should do. Today you have Ms. Desiree here, you have Ms. Patty here, and they're giving you agency as to what does government need, what does private sector need, and also there are young people who are startup businesses, who are entrepreneurs, and they're also letting you know what do they need. But all in all, thank you, Old Mutual, and I just hope that everyone else that is here that is able to connect with young people, connect young people, let us support one another, but also your future is in your hands, and it's up to you to make deliberate, intentional decisions about how you are going to thrive in the economy. So thank you, guys.
She's amazing. And the speakers, the questions were also thought-provoking, your contributions. It's the first time I'm getting a recommendation that we should put driving as a life skill parallel to the education curriculum, right? And how innovative is that, but how realistic is that? Because of the responsibility that comes with driving, it's important. So many questions. I'm going to respond generally, and then I'm going to give you some advice, because that's what I do. I'm an advisor. How many of you here have applied for the green hydrogen scholarships? Government has put out 150 million to upskill and reskill young Namibians towards the green and blue economy. How many of you have applied? Honestly? So I've got 3 people. Okay, 4 hands. At least 4 out of 50. You're here because you're investing in your education, your information, you are serious about where you want to go, and I first want to appreciate you for taking yourself seriously and investing this time. When these kinds of opportunities come, don't take them for granted. This 150 million has been put on the table. It's a small example. We've got NASFAF that has 1.2 billion to provide bursaries for young Namibian students. I'm not sure how many of us actually meet those opportunities and avail ourselves to become the solution. The truth is, we're going to, at least with one project, the Hyphen project, which I was fortunate to be on the government negotiating team. I was negotiating on socioeconomic development. So we negotiated Namibian jobs, 90%, a youth quota, 20%, 32,000 jobs. We negotiated everything that is important to Namibians, right? Now, 32,000 jobs are going to be created across from executive down to technical. You have to prepare yourself for that opportunity, and that speaks to my unemployed graduate who says, I've done this, but it's not relevant for the economy. Passion must meet strategic priorities of the country. You must align yourself with the new areas of development in the country. If you are an economist, go back and specialize and become a minerals and mining economist, because that's what we need for oil and gas, that's what we need for the synthetic fuels industry. If you did technical and you are a photovoltaic painter and you paint PVT panels, that's okay, but the truth is we need you to specialize, because the skill of painting those grains in the desert, it's so important, because if you don't paint it properly, it affects the number of sand that can sit on the panel and the amount of sun that it can catch and the yield of energy that it can cap. Do you see? It's highly specialized. So NQF level 3 must become NQF level 7. You have to upskill. We don't have railway technicians in the country, but we need lots of rail to get into the southern part of the country. So if you're going to go into TVET, consider those kinds of skills gaps. The truth is we've got a 9% skills gaps. By 2018 already, only 9% of the Namibian workforce has got some of the skills that we need for oil and gas and for green hydrogen. That means only about 59,000 people today can respond to the jobs. You saw the headlines. President was talking about 600,000 direct and indirect opportunities will be stimulated. Only 59,000 of our youth today, those in construction and a few others, will be able to respond. That means those of you who have got these opportunities to reskill through scholarships, you should use the time now. This is the preparation time in order for you to respond and meet that opportunity. Otherwise, it's competitive, it's global, somebody else will take it. as I conclude, I also could resonate a lot with all of you. Nobody just gives you an opportunity. You really have to stand out. And we're 2.6 million people. I've been to African countries where there are 200 million, 150 million, 59 million. South Africa is now 61 million people. It's not hard for you to stand out and shine in Namibia. You can be outstanding. You can distinguish yourself. What are you doing on thought leadership? Are you writing opinion editorials? Are you doing interviews on TV? Are you marketing and positioning yourself visibly so that people can see your potential? Because recruiters, Lisa will agree with me, they hire potential first and not always qualification. So influence through results. It's not easy. My brother, my younger brother, had to apply 28 times on one company before he got the job. Resilience, young people. Resilience, not giving up. It's not enough for you to do 2 or 3 times and blame government because the opportunities are not coming. It's a highly competitive area. And the last thing I just want to share with you through my journey, what I've learned is that relationships matter. Along the way, take care of relationships. You're here with Martha Murorwa. Don't take it for granted. She's a decision maker. I'm singling you out. She's a decision maker. Speak to her. Introduce yourself to her. But also be intentional to water those relationships along the way. Because these are the sponsors that will remember you in the boardrooms and say, but by the way, there's so and so and so such person. That is a story for another day, but that is how I got my first opportunity. I spoke to somebody. And along the way, I was not reckless with social media and relationships. Thank you.
To close off, I just want to tell the youth that are out here, some of you have heard my story. So COVID, I was one of the victims. I lost my job. My job became redundant. And I decided to start my own company. And that is because I was privileged enough to have worked for a company that equipped me with the skills that I needed. So I had two choices: look for a job or create a job. And I know how long it takes to apply for a job in Namibia. But I looked at myself and say, what have I gained? And if there are managers in here, please, I'm pleading with you, do train your employees. They are not going to take away your jobs. They are going to create jobs. And because I've had good managers who have actually invested in me, I was able to create or come up with Shito HR and training consultants. So when it comes to social security, the requirements are easy. When I started the company, I had no capital. It was zero, but I went through. And it's compliance. Unfortunately, we need it. We need to govern, and we've seen why the Central Procurement Board has been established. So that kind of stuff. So when it comes to, in terms of qualifications, I had a comment that says HR does not know what they are doing. Unfortunately, it's the managers who come up with the job requirements. So it's their competency frameworks, and companies want to hire skilled people, because for you to be competitive, we don't just hire because you have a job. We must align you in terms of the job that you're going to do. And lastly, please be aware in terms of the future of skills. Automation, artificial intelligence, the world of work is changing. Some of the jobs you currently have, they're going to disappear in the next 5 years. And what are you doing to prepare yourself in terms of the future of work? So the blue economy, the green economy that we are talking about is also coming in terms of, are you a tech savvy? The millennials that are here, the Gen Z, we different in terms of how we work. And also for companies or recruiters to design workplaces that are future fit and looking at the generations that is joining the workplace. Due to time, I'll take the conversations offline, but do follow me. I do advise and share career tips on LinkedIn and social media just to equip you in terms of what you need to do for you to stay employable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and 2 points which I would like to flag. One, and just really reiterating what has been said, is do what you are passionate about. There is nothing worse than having someone in an organization who is working but hates, and they're there just for the money. Because you will not get excellence, you will not get anyone really excelling or really proving or being an asset in the company. So do what you are passionate about, because that's where you'll also make money, because you're excited about what you're doing. So that's the first point I really would like to reiterate for young people. Do what you are passionate about. Life is short, make the most of it. Second point is really around Old Mutual, other partners in the house. We are willing and want to partner with you guys on this issue of youth unemployment, because really doing scattered things, I will still reiterate, we're just replicating, duplicating. Let's come together, let's see what we can do together, and we will have a greater impact. So we are really committed and ready for further discussions, conversations to see how we can engage on this issue of youth unemployment. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our esteemed panelists, and thank you to those of you who posed questions to them. I think we had a very excited and scintillating conversation this morning. It went on a bit longer than we planned. I hope that's okay. We will be ending shortly. But just to summarize, I think this is just the start of the conversation. There'll be a lot more tea spilling going forward. And hopefully we will continue with this discussion from Old Mutual's perspective, but also the other industries represented, that will take up the request from the UN to partner with them in building a holistic program. It was so wonderful that we ended on a note of passion, because that's what young people represent to me, is passion and zeal and excitement. And I look forward to seeing what great things we are going to do in Namibia. Thank you so much. And thank you to our panelists. We have a small gift for you. And as you exit the stage, please do accept it from Benita. Thank you very much. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. And so we've come to the end of our session for this morning. Before we formally close off, I'd like to invite Ndangi Katsoma. He's a trustee of the Old Mutual Foundation, to share some closing remarks for this session. Thank you, Ndangi.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies, Old Mutual Foundation Board of Trustees and the management team, distinguished panelists, speakers, and invited guests, friends from the media. Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude this momentous opening ceremony, I want to express my heartfelt thanks and unwavering optimism. Today, we embark on a journey that holds great promise for the Namibian youth. Our goal today is to ignite hope and to lay the foundation for something that's truly special. The 2023 Old Mutual Foundation Indaba isn't just an event, Professor Mchombo. It is a strong commitment to the future of the young Namibian generation. We have discussed the core values of this Indaba: empowerment, education, and a brighter tomorrow. The enthusiasm and dedication in this room demonstrate our collective hunger for change, our eagerness to learn, and our readiness to make a difference. But let us remember, this launch is only the beginning. The Old Mutual Foundation Indaba isn't a one-day affair. It is a movement that will continue to grow and coordinating with other partners. Now, it's your turn, young people, to carry the spirit of this initiative forward, to champion youth empowerment in your community, in your workplace, and certainly in your personal lives. Together, we can turn dreams into reality. Together, we can discover opportunities in challenges, and certainly together, we can build a brighter future for Namibia youth. As we conclude this opening ceremony, live with hope in your hearts, fresh ideas in your mind, and a renewed sense of purpose. The 2023 Old Mutual Foundation Indaba is officially underway, and the journey ahead is certainly filled with potential and promise. Thank you all for being part of this important day, and may you carry the torch of empowerment forward with determination and a vision for a better future for Namibia youth. I wish you success, I wish you prosperity and positive change. And as Lisa said, #we move. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ndungi. I've got one surprise for you. There is a ticket stuck under somebody's chair. If you have that under your chair, you will win a carpet. So if you could just quickly have a look, see if you're the lucky winner of a carpet. Maybe just put your hand up if you, hey, well done. So we have a winner. Congratulations. Mavis, will you explain to her where to find the carpet or a prize? Mavis is the lady in the blue suit. You can go to her. She's at the back. Great. Thank you very much. And there's one final formal procedure that we're going to conduct now. As we end this session, I'm going to lead the way and ask our Managing Director, Mr. Tassius Chigariro, as well as the Old Mutual Foundation trustees to follow me. Diane, if you could just wait for us to exit, and then the rest of you are welcome to follow. We're going to cut the ribbon, which officially opens this, or symbolically officially opens this Indaba. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our very first training session for today, part of the Old Mutual Foundations Indaba for 2023. Can I get a hey? Yes. We want to wish you all a very, very successful session today. My name is Marisel Stoffberg. I am the Group Communications Practitioner for Old Mutual Namibia. I sit in the Group Communication, Marketing, Public Affairs and Sustainability Department. It's a mouthful, but in short, I like to talk. Whether it's to people, screens, smoke signals, the works. So I think they put me on stage today to get some of my energy out so that I can stop talking in the office. So please bear with me today. I am very privileged to be here and I'm so excited to see all the faces. Today is going to be an amazing session. It's going to empower you, it's going to equip you and skill you with what you need to tackle the job market. So we have an amazing lineup for you guys. And before we start, this session is Speak Up Mastery. So I don't know how many of you have ever been in a situation where you had to pitch an idea or you had to sell yourself. You're in an interview, you need to make people believe in you, believe in your idea. But then the words in the mind and the words out of the mouth, they're not the same. And you're just like, Lord, please help me because I have an idea, but I don't know how to eloquently present it. That's what today is about. It's about looking that stage fright and stage fear and the freeze in the eye and say, not today, I revoke you. Today, I will be selling myself in a way that people will not forget. So here we're going to teach you about resilience. We're going to teach you about crafting compelling stories. And we're going to give you the opportunity to really sell yourself and have people believe in you and what you have to offer. So I'm very, very excited to call up our very first trainer for today, none other than Mr. Tafanji. Tafanji has been in the industry for more than 22 years. And if I look at the people in the room, that can be the average age of the person sitting here. A whole human being, this man has been in the industry, meaning that he knows what he's talking about. He does creatives, he works in mediums from radio to television and in between, a little bit of everything. I've had the privilege to work with him in the past as well, and I'm very, very privileged to call him to the stage. So make sure your ears are spiked because you're going to be hearing some things you will not want to forget. So please enjoy.
Well, thank you, especially to Old Mutual Foundation. Thank you very much for this invitation, and thank you for coming through to session 2. I'll get right into it with the limited time that we have. A brief introduction, as she's mentioned. Today, I'll be talking the art of eloquence, tone, and pitch. And to get straight into it, I'd like to first and foremost briefly introduce myself. This is not basically about me, but where the journey started. I started off as a radio presenter 2001. But before that, I had the inquisitive mind to listen to worldwide radio. I had the privilege to have a satellite radio in my bedroom. And from there, I listened to different radio stations, different programs from East Africa, Botswana, South Africa, Malawi. And I learned different forms of delivery, different forms of speech from these people. And it inspired me to the journey from 2001, later becoming a master of ceremony, commentary in terms of radio, sports, and other initiatives. Then eventually multimedia producer, as she's mentioned, TV, radio, print as well. And eventually, this journey got me to become a business owner for a broadcaster as well as a multimedia production company. So that's basically Tafanji in a nutshell, also known as Taffy. So for today, I'll be giving the basic in terms of eloquence, tone, and pitch. Much of the speakers, or the second speaker and the third speaker, will basically cover it, and I'll give much of the theoretical part of it. How many of us have really wanted to speak in public, or how many of us want to be on radio, on TV, but haven't gotten the opportunity? In here, okay? And how many of us are on radio, on TV, or print, or in media, and still find you haven't gotten there? Okay. The secret is you will never get there, even if you haven't started, and even though you've started. And 22 years being in the industry, I still feel I can learn from you, and I can still learn from so many people. And every day, I try to make my